another devlog. Today I want to talk about my new game Castle Rampart, how I came up with the idea, what the game is currently like, and one of the biggest parts of the game right now, the enemies. Castle Rampart is a tower defense game, but there is one major difference. Instead of building a huge number of towers around the map like other tower defenses, you are directly defending one castle. You have to aim and shoot at the enemies yourself, survive waves, and manage everything that's happening around your castle. And the more I worked on the game, the more I realized that I didn't want it felt like a completely traditional tower defense game. I wanted it to have its own identity. How I came up with the idea? The original idea actually started pretty simple. I wanted to make a game where the player has to defend a castle, but I didn't want to use the usual tower defense formula where you place towers, upgrade them, and then just watch them attack enemies automatically. I wanted the player to actually participate in the defense. So instead of controlling an army of towers, you're basically the person defending the castle. You have to react to enemies yourself. At first, the concept was much simpler than what Castle Rampart is becoming now. But then I started thinking about how I could make the gameplay more interesting without just adding hundreds of different towers and upgrades. And that's when I started experimenting with day and night. So the game has day-night cycle. During the day you have one type of enemies, but when night comes the game changes. The enemy becomes stronger, they get special abilities, and visibility becomes a much bigger problem. They really like the idea because it gives the player two different situations to deal with, instead of just making every wave feel the same. The day and night system. The game is built around surviving different days and nights. During the day you can clearly see what's coming toward your castle. The enemies are generally easier to understand, and you have more control over the situation. But at night things become much more unpredictable. You have enemies that can teleport, enemies that can become invisible, enemies that summon other enemies, and much stronger enemies in general. So the idea is that daytime gives you a little bit more control, while nighttime is where things start getting chaotic. And this also gives me a lot more possibilities for future content. I don't have to create just another enemy with more HP, I can create an enemy that behaves completely differently specifically because it's nighttime. The enemies. And right now the game already has 12 different enemies. That's 6 daytime enemies and 6 nighttime enemies. I wanted every enemy to have its own purpose instead of simply making every new enemy stronger than previous one. So let's quickly go through them. The first daytime enemy is basically the most basic enemy. He's relatively slow and he's only 5 HP. He has only 5 HP. So he is very easy to kill. He's mainly there to introduce the basic combat and give the player something simple to deal with. The second daytime enemy is something like similar to Viking. He has a wooden shield that has a 20% chance to block incoming damage. He also has twice as much health as the first enemy, so he's already significantly harder to kill. Then we have the third enemy, a fast goblin. He has 8 HP and deals 3 damage to castle. He is not extremely strong, but he is really fast, which makes him much more annoying. If you don't notice him early enough, he can reach your castle surprisingly quickly. The fourth daytime enemy is the Armored Knight. He has 15 HP and he has a 50% chance to completely block your damage. But because he is wearing heavy armor, he is also one of the slowest enemies in my game. So he is basically a slow tank that you have plenty of time to deal with, but you can't just expect every shot to damage him. The fifth enemy is probably one of the most interesting daytime enemies. It's a huge cannon car. It moves very slowly and stops when it reaches its firing distance. Then it fires once every 2 seconds, dealing a very large amount of damage to the castle. So even though it's slow, you absolutely don't want to let it stay alive for too long. And finally, the 6th daytime enemy is an archer. He has 8 HP and deals 4 damage, and moves at roughly the same speed as the first enemy. But unlike most of other enemies, he doesn't need to reach the castle to attack it. He can stay at the distance and shoot the castle. And if there are a lot of characters and if there are a lot of archers together, they can destroy your castle extremely quickly. But then night comes, and this is where the enemies become much more dangerous. The first nighttime enemy is literally a cube. It has 15 HP and medium movement speed, but it can sometimes teleport slightly forward or backward. So while you're shooting at it, it can suddenly change its position and dodge your attacks. It can reach the castle in just a few seconds and deals 3 damage. It can also teleport backward to avoid your attacks, which makes it incredibly annoying to deal with. The second nighttime enemy is this tiny, extremely fast creature. It can reach the castle in just a few seconds and deals 3 damage. It can also teleport backward to avoid your attacks, which makes it incredibly annoying to deal with. The third enemy is basically a forest monster. It has 20 HP and is relatively slow, but it can randomly become invisible for a period of time. And because this happens at night, it can be difficult to find it even with a flashlight. The fourth nighttime enemy is a skeleton. It has a lot of HP, but its most dangerous ability is that it can summon 2 additional small skeletons every 5 seconds. So if you don't kill it quickly, the number of enemies can get out of control. The fifth enemy is a round monster that can attack from distance. When it reaches its firing range, it starts charging a dark ball and then launches it towards the castle, dealing 5 damage. It's actually not that strong on its own, but when there are several of them in group, they can become extremely annoying. And finally, we have the Dark Orc. This guy has a massive 60 HP. He's very slow and doesn't get knocked back when you damage him. And because he is so large, he can actually block other enemies behind him and absorb the damage instead. So when he is alone, he is not necessarily that dangerous. But when you have a group of enemies behind him, bro, yeah, that's a real problem. And that's basically what I'm trying to achieve with an enemy design in Castle Rampart. I don't want every enemy to simply have more health. I want them to interact with each other and create different situations. What's next? Right now Castle Rampart is still in development, but the core idea is finally starting to come together. I already have the basic combat, the castle defense, the day and night system, and 12 different enemies, 6 for daytime and 6 for nighttime. But there is still a lot of work I want to add. I want to expand the progression, add more interesting events, improve the atmosphere, and eventually give the game more of an actual story. I also want the different days and nights to feel less predictable, so that every playthrough isn't exactly the same. The goal is that when you start playing Castle Rampart, you might think, okay, this is just a simple tower defense game. But after playing for a while, you realize there is much more going on. And that's basically what I'm working toward right now. So that is for Devlog number 1. If you want to see how Castle Rampart continues to develop, make sure to subscribe and follow the development. And I'll see you in the next Devlog.